Mr. Chairman, all three names are legitimate names, and you are at liberty to call me Boakye Kyeremanteng Agyarko or Boakye Agyarko.
Your region you hail from I see Eastern and Ashanti regions. Is there any special reason why you have Eastern and Ashanti?
My father hails from Jamasi in the Ashanti region. My mother comes from Krobo Dumasi in the Eastern region.
So you know the society you belong, whether patrilineal or matrilineal. Where do you belong?
That is my dilemma, Mr. Chairman. The Akans are matrilineal, and therefore the fact that my father is an Akan does not give me a legitimate place in the totemic clan system. The Krobos are patrilineal, and the fact that my mother is the one who hails from Krobo, also means that I do not have a Wecho in Krobo. So probably I'm hanging in the balance, and I refuse to be pigeonholed.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Good Evening Ghana. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry, we're starting 9 minutes behind schedule. But tonight, it is with an uncomfortable disposition that we announce the dedication of this program to Boakye Kyeremanteng Agyarko, the Minister for Energy, former Minister for Energy as he now would be, because he was relieved of his appointment by the President yesterday after a controversial amendment to the Ameri deal. Many people on Facebook and other social media platforms have today paid tribute to Mr. Agyarko, and one of them is particularly moving that I'd like to read at this time. After that, we will also read a republication of the Daily Graphic of 1971 that surfaced tonight on social media, and after that, we'll dedicate the rest of the program to the words and the sounds and the disposition of Boakye Agyarko as he appeared before Parliament's Appointments Committee early 2017. This document that I'm reading is written by a guy called Adom-Otchere, and he says as follows: he had done all what a patriot will do for country and party, referring to Mr. Agyarko. He had stood with the president through thick and thin. He had supported the party financially for decades. He had written a column in The Statesman whilst working in the United States and inspired many with his insights. He had made it in the corporate world and risen to the top as to need no political appointment to prove his mettle. The president had appointed him to the admiration of many as the energy minister, and his immense experience that he had brought to bear on the ailing sector. The opposition lied against him, but he listened to good counsel and decided to prosecute them not. He promised to end doomsday, and he did. He promised to reduce electricity tariffs, and he did. He promised to renegotiate all energy contracts to Ghana's advantage, and Boakye Agyarko did. Hail the Honorable Boakye Agyarko, the script says. And so why this slip on this agreement? What a slip that has so much shaken the president as to justify and compel him to take such a difficult decision. I support the president, but my heart still bleeds for Honorable Boakye Agyarko. It takes so much to mold men of his build, and for a slip to end a career so illustrious on rocks rends the heart in deep sorrow. As the president shifts the paradigm of public service to one of standards and excellence, we all support him and urge all the members of Team Nanado to sit up and work to make Ghana a better place. We appreciate you, Mr. President, and we salute you. May tomorrow never mirror today, and may Ghana be the winner for it. Let's see the teaser again with Boakye Agyarko in action.
Nomination, and we in the New Patriotic Party are very happy and confident that you will deliver in this portfolio. I'm sure you are very much aware of the issue regarding the erratic power supply in this country. Popularly,
Mr. Chairman, all three names are legitimate names, and you are at liberty to call me Boakye Kyeremanteng Agyarko or Boakye Agyarko.
Your region you hail from to, I see Eastern and Ashanti regions. Is there any special reason why you have Eastern and Ashanti?
My father hails from Jamasi in the Ashanti region. My mother comes from Krobo Dumasi in the Eastern region.
So you know the society you belong, whether patrilineal or matrilineal. Where do you belong?
That is my dilemma, Mr. Chairman. The Akans are matrilineal, and therefore the fact that my father is an Akan does not give me a legitimate place in the totemic clan system. The Krobos are patrilineal, and the fact that my mother is the one who hails from Krobo, also means that I do not have a Wecho in Krobo. So probably I'm hanging in the balance, and I refuse to be pigeonholed into one box.
Honorable nominee.
Okay, welcome back to the studio. We are still talking about Boakye Kyeremanteng, but something appeared on the news today. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's entitled, "Bribery is Our Main Problem." It appeared actually on social media platforms, and it's a rendition by Prime Minister Buzia. If they put up on the screen, we can read it together. It's 1971. He said some interesting things. There you have it, "Bribery, Our Main Problem." And it's as follows. The Prime Minister, Dr. K.A. Buzia, has said that the most difficult task facing the country today is to eradicate bribery and corruption from the Ghanaian society. He says, and he goes on, Dr. Buzia said this when he was opening 120,000 CD bridge over the River Tano, 8 miles from Sunyani at the weekend. The Prime Minister said that the country was in a mess, not because it is lacking human and natural resources, but just because most of the people are not honest. Dr. Buzia cited instances of dishonesty, including the events which led to the suspension of the management committee of the Kumasi City Council, now the KMA, and said that some members of the dissolved committees allocated to themselves a number of stores and stalls instead of allocating these stalls to the people who really needed them. He said bribery and corruption have eaten so deep into the very fabric of the society that when you put anybody in a position of trust, he or she uses that position to amass wealth. Ghana, he said, was faced with a task of rebuilding the nation and asked how he could build the nation alone if people continue to be selfish and dishonest. Reiterating his call on Ghanaians to discipline themselves, the Premier deplored the way and manner Ghanaians spent all their money on drinks. I'll read that again. Reiterating his call on Ghanaians to discipline themselves, the Premier deplored the way and manner Ghanaians spent all their money on drinks. I'm sure he meant alcohol, because the people are not disciplined. They live, he said, a life beyond their means, as a result of which they always find themselves in unhappy situations. The Prime Minister called for a change in the Ghanaian attitude towards work. Now, this was the Prime Minister of Ghana speaking to us in 1971, ably captured by the graphic, and he was worried about discipline. Anyway, at 18 minutes past 9 o'clock, as I said at the beginning of the program, it is with a very uncomfortable disposition that we pay tribute to the now dismissed Minister of Energy. Here is Boakye Kyeremanteng in some of his best moments as he appeared before Parliament during the Appointment Committee hearings. Fare thee well, Boakye Kyeremanteng, and we all wish you the best.
Even though it is a substantive matter, I'll take it from your CV. You have indicated that you worked with the Bank of New York. Now, the Bank of New York is a very, very controversial bank. I'm sure you're aware. And I'll tell you why before I ask the question. In 2005, Mr. Chairman. No, it is not an opinion. Mr. Chairman, in 2005, the bank was made to pay to federal officers $38 million for engaging in money laundering. And this led to the prosecution of one of its vice presidents. And this was as a result of, money laundered to the tune of about $17 billion through hundreds of ways. It ended up in the prosecution of 9 people. This was the time that, per your CV, you were working there. 2007, the same bank, Russia, filed a $22.5 billion lawsuit against the bank for money laundering, which was settled for $14 million. And this also happened at the time that you were working there, per your CV, if it is correct that indeed you worked there. Now, in 2011, the Justice Department in New York filed civil suits against the bank, alleging a decade-old foreign currency fraud. Now the question is, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I have tried earlier, but you go out on social media assaulting that I'm trying to prevent you from asking questions. That's why I'm indulging you. But this is clearly breaching our Rules Order 67. Can you please go on to your question? What has the bank's prosecution of others, not the candidate, not the nominee here, got to do with us?
Thank you. I'll ask the question now. Thank you. I'll ask the question now. Now, can you, based on this record of the bank that you worked with, at the time that you worked, can you kindly...
I guess I may also need to address an aspect of the question that you asked. That, yes, you said he's claiming that he worked at a particular location, if indeed he worked there. That seriously is questioning the integrity of the person. And unless you have evidence to prove that he didn't work there, you cannot phrase the question that way. Clearly very offensive. Colleague, and I was not here in the morning. I don't know what the chairman is talking about, but I will plead with you that in formulating and framing your questions, please be very careful and address your mind to our rules of procedure. With respect to you, I hope you take a cue and please be advised. Go on.
Thank you. So the foundation still stands, and the question is, can you kindly briefly, tell us your work at the bank, how you were engaged, how you were discontinued, how you discontinued working with the bank, and perhaps later furnish us with the document that shows how you left the bank, so we can assure ourselves as a nation that you at no particular point in time played any role in these scandals that I have hinted at. Thank you.
Your question is overruled. If you want another question, please go on, but please nominate disregard and the part relating to order.
I can answer. Mr. Chairman.
Order.
Mr. Chairman.
Order. Please, if you want to answer the question relating to what role you did, answer.
Mr. Chairman.
Nominee, hold on. The majority leader wants to come in. Hold on.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very glad that the honorable member started by saying that the Bank of New York is a large organization. The Bank of New York operates in 125 countries. The money laundering issues of 2007 and 2005 and 2007 happened in London, a totally different jurisdiction from New York, where I was. A totally different jurisdiction from where I was. If the honorable member would care to investigate the structure of the holding company, Bank of New York, New York, Bank of New York, London, Bank of New York, Brussels, Bank of New York, Mexico, don't have lateral relationships. We all report to the holding company of the Bank of New York, New York, New York. It beats my imagination, therefore, that a case that happened outside my jurisdiction and a case for which was investigated and specific individuals held accountable and prosecuted without my name ever being associated with the business becomes an issue. The Ashantis have a proverb. To wit, because God abhors evil deeds, he gave each and every one of us a unique name. Mr. Chairman, the question has no linkage. The question of the criminal prosecutions has no linkage to New York and my employment. So I am rather lost on why it's an issue.
Honorable Nominee, your point is well made. Thank you very much. Now, Honorable Member, you will stay out of matters which are not relevant and which are not justifiable, accusations and so on. Please play by the rules, or else I'll go past you and call other people.
Mr. Chairman, I think that I have to make it clear that I am not happy with the way that I am treated on this committee. Mr. Chairman, I want it on record that I never impugned ill motives to the nominee. I simply referred to scandals and sought to find out how he left the bank, so we assure ourselves that he had no role in those scandals, because a vice president was held responsible and he also left as vice president. I never impugned ill motive, I never accused him, and I would like that to be on record that I am not happy about the way you have treated me on this committee.
Honorable Suhini, you are not ready to ask a question, I'll move on.
To my next question.
No. I've ruled you out. I'm asking another person too.
Honorable nominee, I would like to congratulate you on your nomination. And we in the New Patriotic Party are very happy and confident that you will deliver in this portfolio. I'm sure you are very much aware of the issue regarding the erratic power supply in this country, popularly called DUMSO, quote in quotes. I would like to find out what measures you are going to put in place to arrest and deal with this problem once and for all.
Mr. Chairman, the matter of DUMSO has had significant consequences on this country, starting from 2012. The fact that we still talk about DUMSO this day clearly suggests that the problem was never fully solved, and it lingers. To put it in a nutshell, we believe that we are moving from DUMSO to a steady state of power supply to the ideal state of uninterrupted power delivery. The problem of Dumso, in our estimation, is not a technical problem. If you look across the spectrum of the energy sector, we have some of the best brains and technical people in our energy sector in Africa. The problem of Dumso has been principally one of money. The energy sector we find now is seriously cash-strapped, to the extent that we now live in a debt merry-go-round. If you look at the value chain for power delivery, the power generator, the major power generator, VRA, and the IPPs, independent power producers, buy their crude, they generate power, load it onto Gridco, Gridco sells it to ECG, and ECG must collect the monies and pay. ECG is not able to collect and pay Gridco. Gridco, therefore, is not able to pay the power producers. The power producers are therefore not able to pay for crude. And therefore, it limits their ability to generate power. As we stand now, roughly 40–45% of installed capacity is idle. It's idle because we cannot get the gas, the LCO, or the HFO to power these plants. In certain instances, we do not even have the money to do scheduled and regular maintenance, therefore threatening the plant in terms of warranty and insurance. So the problem has largely been one of how the money has been managed in the energy sector. We have come to the conclusion that in trying to end Dumso, we have to improve the financial management and structuring within the energy sector in order to do so, and that's what I commit to do.
Chairman, I may have a quick follow-up. In your earlier answer, you stated that Dumso referenced 2012. It is a historical fact that Dumso occurred in other periods of our country history. Will you walk us through that? Not necessarily 2012.
Mr. Chairman, my reference to 2012 is not to obfuscate the fact that there has been Dumso in this country. I am talking of this particular stretch of Dumso. However, recall that 1987, there was a problem with the hydrology of the Volta Basin. And therefore, we came into some shortage situations. 1993, there was a similar hiccup. 97, 98, we went through similar hiccups. 2006 into October 2006 into 2007, we had such similar problems. So I am not by any means saying that Dumso started in 2012. All I'm saying is that this particular stretch, as we experience it, started from 2012 and it's ongoing.
Chairman, I have to count. I'll yield to you. So are you assuming that between 1993, 2000, and 2007, those outages had nothing to do with money as a problem?
Money was not the driving, the majority problem. From 1987 all through 1993, there was a World Bank Harvard University study that told us about the hydrology of the Volta Basin and the periodicity with which we were going to experience these things. In as much as money may have been a problem, it was not the dominant factor in those occasions.
Mr. Chairman, my first question will flow from the review of existing matters. There is a matter which certainly will engage your attention if this committee gives you the nod. And it is quite an urgent matter, and it has to do with the Ghana Compact 2, the Ghana Power Compact. It will appear that ECG workers are opposed to the private participation, which is a key component of this compact. What is the MPP government's position on Compact 2, and what should we expect in terms of how you proceed with the ongoing negotiation with the Americans, considering that there is a new government in place at the White House, and this time we need to be quite careful because, as we have heard President Trump say at his inauguration, is America first. And he may not want to continue to give us the funds, the support, if as a country we do not agree on a position quickly and move this matter forward. So what is your position on Compact 2 as we speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you can indulge me to reverse the answer, the order of answering. Having lived in America for 25 years, I don't think we should be scared of the rise of a Donald Trump. The Compact 2 was negotiated as an act of Congress, and he has no powers to nullify an act of Congress because it is America first. Will not work. Now to your fundamental question. All the ECG staff I've engaged admit that ECG has a problem, that it cannot be business as usual, but they disagree with the methods by which we are trying to solve the problems that we all see. From a philosophical standpoint, I have a problem with equity and fairness in treatment. The question I have posed is, ECG is in the kind of mess it is now largely because of unpaid bills. They have their managerial problems, they concede that. But if a company such as ECG is owed 800 million Ghana cedis by its own government, its own shareholder, I don't see what kind of business can survive under those circumstances. And the question, therefore, is, are we going to dislodge these disabilities that are plaguing and hobbling ECG off the books of records and allow the concessionaire to have a clean slate? If so, then do it for ECG. That is equity and fairness. If not, then my sense of mergers and acquisitions is that whatever you see is what you get. Let the concessionaire come in with all and take all the debts, assets, and liabilities and move on and see if they will outperform ECG. Remember that in the history of ECG, we've had two instances of such an intervention. The first was the Irish, and the second was with the French. They both abandoned and left. We will also recall that the best years of ECG was when Kalechi was managing director. They actually made profits and paid dividends. Why? Because the government stayed away from Kalechi and gave him a strong board to operate. Put all of it together. My and the party's position, apart from the philosophical angle of equity and fairness.
Chairman, I may have to come in to support the...
Please complete your answer, then the ranking member will come in.
Apart from the philosophical issues of equity and fairness, I believe that any socio-economic project such as this is, which starts off with a lot of tension, anxiety, and anger, does not end well in its implementation. At this early age of RFP and procurement, we are having problems, even with delays. A lot of key milestones have been missed. So therefore, our position is, yes, there's a compact. Let us take on board all the issues that have been raised, both by ECG workers, civil society, and others. And let us see if we can find common grounds to reduce the tensions, remove some of the misconceptions and so on, so the project can move forward. That is the position we take.
Chairman, listening to the nominee, are you suggesting that a concessionaire which accepts to take ECJ with its assets and liabilities, you will support an outright sale to that concessionaire? Is that what you are suggesting?
Mr. Chairman, a concession is not a sale.
Once the concessionaire
if you read the compact very carefully, it is explicitly clear that the assets remain with government, but there is a lease on the assets. So the concessionaire comes in O&M to use the assets of government. The asset never leaves the books of records of government, so it's not a sale.
So having read the compact, you are convinced that it was not a sale of ECG, the MCE compact that government signed?
Absolutely clear. It's not a sale. It is
ECG.
A grant of concession for a period.
Thank you.
My third question has to do with electricity coverage. I'm very happy to belong to a political tradition that has the most impressive record of extending electricity to some of the remotest parts of Ghana. We were the first to send electricity to northern Ghana, to the Afram Plains. As we speak, electricity coverage, President Mahama brought it to 76%, which is second from under 55%, which is second to Mr. Chairman. Kabo is disturbing me. Honorable Kabo, can you allow me to ask my question? Which is second in the whole of Africa, only to South Africa. Can we have a commitment from you that you will continue with a vigorous expansion of electricity coverage? Because I still have a few communities in my constituency that are looking forward to electricity coverage. Though over the last 4 years, 160 communities in my constituency have benefited, but that has brought it to about 85% coverage. I will love 100%. So honorable nominee, what commitment do you make to expansion in electricity coverage in our country?
Mr. Chairman, let me assure the honorable member that we are committed to the aggressive expansion of electricity coverage, and beyond that, we are committed to making sure that power actually flows along those lines, not the statistics that we have this coverage, but power actually flows.
The cost of electricity is becoming very high. I want to ask, have you taken the trouble to check on illegal connections? And as to whether, after putting some measures to eliminate illegal connections, there will be the need for us to cut down on the cost of the price of electricity in the country? Because I don't understand why I should be paying for somebody's illegal connection. Do you have any intention of solving that problem?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've hit on a raw nerve in the power distribution sector. 30% of all power given to the ECG is lost, either through technical losses or commercial losses. Commercial losses is a nice way of saying theft. Every percentage point represents 60 million cedis. So 60 times 30% is the amount of power we are losing when it gets into the ECG basket. There are a number of things we can do. One is initiate what the ECG people themselves have been advocating, district boundary metering. ECG is organized by districts. They do not meter how much power goes into the district, but they meter how much I sell. So if I'm a district manager, I don't know how much power I was given. I only know how much I sold. Therein lies a lot of the losses. So we have to go and do district boundary metering so that every district will operate as a special business unit doing profit and loss accounting. I bought this and I sold this. Here are my profits, here are my losses.
I want to ask the nominee, what is he bringing to the Ministry of Energy? But when I check his CV, he's more into financing. And the last time he had any job to do, apart from politicking, was about 9 years ago. So what is he bringing to the Ministry of Energy?
Mr. Chairman, let me assure the honorable gentleman that I bring a lot to the table. In my years in the bank, I have done a lot of lending to the industry. And in order to be in a good position to understand your exposures and credit requirements, you ought to understand the industry you are lending to. The second thing is that since 2008, I have largely worked on the party's programs for energy. And on all three occasions that there have been a presidential people in KNUST, they have the President's Forum on Energy. I have been the one on whom the task has fallen to address the body. Finally, and I think more importantly, Mr. Chairman, the problems of the energy sector are purely financial. How you manage the resource flows in the industry, how you structure the payments, how you structure their credits, how you structure their borrowing, are the key ingredients to the success of that industry. If you look at a simple example as ECG, you ask yourself, why are they using short-term suppliers credit to finance activities of 5 years or more? Bad financial decisions. So I bring to the table the ability to impact on the financial decision-making in the energy sector.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to ask the nominee, in his earlier answer to a question, he said that what this country needed was only one FSRU, and we went for 3. Where did he get this information? Well, where did he get this advice from?
Mr. Chairman, it is a report that resides in the Ministry of Energy. And since I was made minister designate, I have had the opportunity to have access to the report and read it.
That report is by who? Who wrote it?
It was done by a committee of probably 17 people drawn from the various institutions.
I'm happy you said that because the past 9 years or so, you've spent time in trying to help your party design the energy policy and information. You will know that in this country, there's only one institution that advises government on energy issues, and that is the Energy Commission. Is that report coming from Energy Commission?
Mr. Chairman, the Energy Commission is the primary body. The Energy Commission at all times invites expertise from the various institutions, including the Attorney Generals, because it has financial implications as to what decisions you take. The Energy Commission by itself will not sit down and make these decisions. They convene a forum that then goes through all the issues and implications, legal, financial, technical, and all of that, and puts the report together.
That's why I asked you, was this report from Energy Commission?
It is under the chairmanship of the Energy Commission.
Are you stating it for a fact? Or you are, because you earlier said that this is something at the Ministry of Energy or Power, and it is done by about 17 people. Now you are saying that it's under the leadership of the Energy Commission, which is which?
Mr. Chairman, I hope I will repeat, and I hope he can follow. Maybe I didn't express myself too clearly. All I'm saying is that a committee was put together, made of about 17 people with a lot of institutional representation, under the leadership of the Energy Commission, to write a report which says that we need one FSRU. Now we have 3. What are the consequences and implications of cancelling the contracts of the 2 others?
Please, Mr. Chairman, I think that in the answer to a question asked, if I heard you, and I will insist, if I contradict you, the tape is played for us to hear. You said that this country needed only one, but the former regime went ahead to procure 3. It is after procuring 3, and then when the World Bank was breathing on the president's neck, that was when this 17 committee was set up. That was what you said. So I asked, who then said, before we had the 3, that we needed only one? That was the question that I'm asking.
Mr. Chairman, the issue of having one FSRU was determined out of the Energy Ministry because there was an issue of stranded gas in the Western Enclave. Western Enclave produces more gas than it can presently use. It means that we have to ship the excess gas all the way to the Eastern Enclave where there's a deficit. There are logistical and infrastructural problems currently. So the decision was made to bring in a regasification unit to fill the gap, whilst the tie-in and the reverse west-east flow was being engineered. That was a decision that was arrived at. And hence, Ghana National GNPC, as the national gas aggregator, went into action and partnered Quantum to put that in place. We have now moved from where everybody was of the opinion that only one regasification unit was in play. Now we have 3 that have all have signatures on them. Now, suffice it to say that On the 21st,
Mr. Chairman, with the greatest respect, I mean, rationally, I should not be interjecting, but the question I asked is simple. As to why they bought 3, why they should have bought only 1, I said, you said that the advice was that only 1 is needed.
yes,
And then we went in for 3. And I asked, who advised that we should buy only 1?
a committee under the chairmanship of Energy Commission, which is the sole advisor to government.
No, but that, you see, please. I asked you, you came back again and said that it is when they had 3 that this committee was set up.
No, please. The question of procuring an FSRU to fill in the gap also had a technical committee deciding that. All in the same format. Energy Commission, interested party, Attorney General, all come on board.
So who set up the committee?
The Minister for Energy.
The Minister for Energy?
Yes.
I hope there are terms of reference, and the report is also available.
I have seen the report.
Mr. Chairman, I am officially making a request for the terms of reference and a copy of this report, but let me move on. Earlier, the nominee made allusion that when now the former administration had bought 3, and the World Bank was breathing on the present neck. Mr. Chairman, with the greatest respect to the nominee, I want the evidence that the World Bank was breathing on the neck of the president. Because just as we were not allowing members to make unsubstantiated allegations, I don't think it would be fair for the nominee to also come here to make unsubstantiated allegation about somebody breathing on another person's neck and get away with it. So we will want the evidence, or otherwise, Mr. Chairman, with the greater respect to a nominee, he will have to withdraw this, because if he cannot substantiate it, he doesn't make it, because that is the rules of this House.
Mr. Chairman,
your complaint is that breathing on the president's neck, is it a statement of fact or expression of so, Mr. Agyarko, are you saying as a fact that the World Bank, I don't know when you say the World Bank what you mean, whether the body or individuals in the World Bank were standing by the president and breathing on his neck, or what did you mean, please?
Mr. Chairman, maybe before he answers, I believe they will all understand why it means that World Bank brought pressure to bear on the president. Right. And I said that we will need this evidence, because at what time did the World Bank tell him that they had to put pressure on the president to set up that committee?
Mr. Chairman, permit me to read a document, Gas to Power Value Chain Actions for the Ghanaian Energy Sector.
Which document is that?
It's a cabinet memorandum.
And after that, you'll be willing to tender it, leave a copy with us?
Yes. 21st November 2016. On November 13th, 2016, this is a memorandum submitted jointly by Honorable Sir Tekpe and Emmanuel Amakufibua. On November 13th, 2016, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the Minister of Finance / Power, Honorable Seth E. Tekpe, met with the World Bank team led by Henry G. Kareli, Country Director in Accra, Ghana, to discuss urgent issues in the energy sector. In attendance was the Government of Ghana Energy Sector Working Group. The discussions were preceded by a joint presentation by the Energy Sector Working Group and the World Bank outlining the issues. The objectives of the aid memoir was to record the issues discussed and agree on the next steps to resolve them.
Honorable Member, hold on. Let's do a small caucus meeting with the leadership and.
Please, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, please, Mr. Chairman, please, Mr. Chairman, I'm not putting it on. Mr. Chairman, with a greater respect, we don't want any secrecy. Let him go ahead and read it. Let him go ahead and read it. It's cabinet memo. We all want to hear the content of that memo where the World Bank was sitting on the neck of the president. Let him continue to read. We don't want to discuss anything behind the camera. Let him continue reading. We are Mr. Chairman, with the greater respect, let him control reading. Please, if there are secrecy in there, it is for him how he got it, but let him control reading because these are his documents and these are his evidence. Let him control reading.
Okay. Let me put on record that Honorable Araiga has raised the issue that a cabinet memo which may be labeled secret, whether it should be read on public, and I wanted a discussion on that to draw a conclusion. So it do not appear that anybody was doing a kululu, but the decision is that those who ask the question, they want to. Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, this is a bulky document, and I can leave it with you. Also, the Gas Master Plan 2014.
Mr. Chairman, the greatest respect. The matter, please. The matter under consideration was he was fishing out a section that states that the World Bank put pressure on the president. By his reading a very long, and now he's saying that it's a bulky. He should just make reference to the paragraph where the World Bank was putting pressure on the former president to form this committee. That's all we're asking for.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, page 7 of 8, they give 5 summary agreed next steps. And the key one, re-evaluate alternate fuel supply options to inform the decision. And this is in reference to the FSRU that had been recommended in the Gas Master Plan of 2014. The Gas Master Plan is specific that you need one FSRU.
Mr. Chairman, the sad thing is that, you see, you make an allegation, and I'm insisting that if he cannot make reference to the section where the World Bank put pressure on the former president, he should withdraw it. And that's the most honorable thing to do so that we can proceed. Because, I mean, I have well over 15 more questions to ask. If it's going to delay, I'm sure we'll be here till tomorrow morning. Yes. So if he cannot make reference to a relevant paragraph about the World Bank putting pressure on the former president, he simply withdraws. That's the rules of this House. And then we'll be able to make progress.
Honorable nominee, please proceed.
Very, very recently, the government had to rely on GNPC to provide some critical guarantees. Do you share that as a financial expert, that was worthy to do by the previous administration?
Mr. Chairman, that arrangement was incidental. And as a banker, I don't subscribe to incidental ad hoc arrangements. In most of the countries with hydrocarbon resources, the assets are lodged not on the national books, but in corporate entities. That is why they use Belarus, Kazakhstan, and all of them, Iran. That is how come they are able to use the corporate assets to leverage higher levels of investments into the country. In our case, because the assets, the value of the assets are lodged on our national accounts, it denies us the opportunity for such leveraging. But I would want a situation where we have institutional arrangements where some of these assets are used to enhance the balance sheet of the weaker ones in the sector.
But is that not the case for Gridco Airport Company, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, today now borrowing on the strength of their balance sheet, based on their own receivables?
Companies must borrow on their balance sheet. Yes, I agree. But where one company stands as guarantor or parent to enhance the credit worthiness of another company on ad hoc basis without proper arrangements and guarantees, always open room for risk.
Per the requirements of Article 94, have you taken steps to commit to doing and submitting to us your tax obligations?
I have them.
Do you owe allegiance to any other state other than the Republic of Ghana? And when was your last visit to the United States of America?
If I may repeat, none whatsoever. I left United States in June 2007 and have never been back.
Okay. I have no questions for you. We thank you for attending upon the committee. You're discharged. You're supposed to collect from... No clapping, please. Can we collect the...